from battle to balance. You may wonder if there is a way of counteracting the action of balanced forces. In fact, our day-to-day life is an ongoing battle with balanced forces. All the difficulties and problems we encounter are linked with the actions of balanced forces. Trying to resist balanced forces is futile, as they will have their way no matter what. Any effort to avoid the consequences of their actions will only aggravate the situation. The only remedy for the impact of balanced forces is to reduce the excess potential of importance produced as a result of the underlying problem. The kind of situations life throws at us are so diverse, it would be impossible to give a universal recipe to cover all of them. There are, however, certain general recommendations that can be made to ease the way. People spend a lot of time building walls based on a foundation of importance, only to bang their heads against it or try crawling under it. Rather than trying to get over the obstacle, would not it be better to remove bricks from the foundation so that it crumbled? People tend to have a very clear view of the obstacles in their way, but a very dim view of the foundation the obstacles are constructed on. If you find yourself in a problematic situation, try and determine where you might have placed too much intensity, gone too far, or become obsessive, consequently projecting excess importance. Determine the meaning something has for you, and then let go of it. The wall will crumble, obstacles will disappear, and problems will be resolved of their own accord. Do not try to overcome obstacles. Reduce their level of importance. Reducing importance does not mean fighting your feelings or trying to suppress them. Excessive emotions and worries are the direct consequence of projected importance. It is the cause that has to be dealt with. And the cause is your relationship to whatever the event or other object happens to be. I could advise you to take a philosophical stance in life as far as this is possible, although this approach has already been milked for all it's worth. You have to make conscious the fact that projecting importance onto things will bring you nothing but trouble, and with that understanding, intentionally reduce the importance you attribute to things. Reducing outer importance has nothing to do with neglecting one's responsibilities or underestimating what is happening around you. On the contrary, neglect is the flip side of the coin where projected importance is concerned. There is a need to live simply, which includes maintaining a common sense attitude towards life. There is no place for carelessness or exaggeration. Rather than thinking so much about whether a person is good or bad, try to accept the limits of life. Neither does reducing inner importance have anything in common with becoming resigned or putting yourself down. Indulgently repenting one's sins and mistakes in life is the same as showing off one's virtues and accomplishments. The only difference lies in the value sign each type of behavior carries, be it positive or negative. Your remorse is only of any use to pendulums that want to establish control over you. Accept yourself the way you are. Allow yourself the luxury of being you. Neither exalt nor belittle your own virtues and flaws. Strive for a state of inner peace in which you understand that you are neither important nor totally insignificant. If your situation very strongly depends on the outcome of a certain event, try to find an alternative solution. In order to stay calm when walking along a plank, you have to have a safety net. In each individual case, the safety net will be something different. Simply ask yourself, what might serve as a safety net in a given situation? And remember that it is useless battling against balanced forces. Neither should you try to suppress fear or excitement. You can only reduce the level of importance you have projected onto something, and this can only be done if you have a safety net of some kind or a plan B. Never put all your eggs in one basket, no matter how safe the basket looks. The only thing that does not create excess potential is a sense of humor, the ability to laugh at yourself and others without causing offense. This alone is enough to stop you from becoming a kind of walking, talking mannequin. Humor deflates the intensity of importance. When trying to solve a problem, follow one golden rule. Before you even start considering where the solution might lie, first reduce the level of importance you associate with the problem. That way, balanced forces will not get in the way, and the problem can be solved quickly and easily. In order to reduce importance, first remember and be aware that the problem or situation has arisen as a consequence of projected excessive importance. Until you can explain to yourself that every single problem is created by excessive importance, you will continue to bury yourself in its intensity, as in a dream, remaining completely under the power of the pendulum. Stop, shake off the delusion, and recall what projected importance leads to. Then intentionally change your attitude to the situation in question. It is not difficult to do. You already know that attributing excessive meaning to something will only get in the way. The main difficulty is to remember quickly enough that you are playing out projections of inner and outer importance. You need the help of your guardian, your inner witness, who constantly keeps track of all of your inner values. A person's thoughts are gripped by the power of importance in the same way that muscles become tense. When something is bothering you, the muscles in your back go into spasm. You do not notice the tension in these areas until you feel the pain it causes. If you had remembered in time and paid attention to your muscles, you could have released the tension before it built up into spasm. Try to catch yourself when you start attributing excess importance to some event you are preparing for. If the event is genuinely important to you, try not to blow it up out of all proportion. The best recipe for success is spontaneity, improvisation, and a common sense attitude. Any preparation should be by way of creating a safety net, not by being intensely serious and over-careful. This will only increase the level of importance you are attributing to the event. If you are worried about something and yet do nothing about it, this too magnifies the level of importance you give it. The excessive potential of importance dissipates with action. Do not think, act. If you cannot act, then it is better not to think at all. Shift your attention to something else, and as far as possible, let go of the situation. The highest level of efficiency in any action is achieved when a person manages to shift the focus of their attention from self and the end goal to the process of performing the action. In this case, the person is not doing important work, nor is the work itself important. Excess potential is eliminated and balanced forces will not interfere. The action is completed dispassionately, but in no way carelessly or lightheartedly. You might be wondering why one should have to take the focus of attention off the end goal. After all, how can you do your work if you are not thinking about the end goal? Understanding of the meaning of this less obvious and curious fact will become clearer on reading the next few chapters of this book. Why is it that sometimes you can get really anxious about a certain event? You think about it all the time, imagining all kinds of things that could go wrong. But in the end, everything goes smoothly and so much better than expected. Other times, the opposite happens. You are not particularly worried about a particular event, which turns out to have completely unforeseen complications and unpleasant sides to it. In the first case, the personal assessment of the situation is off the charts negative, whilst in the second case, it is through the roof positive. What actually happens in the end is a result of the impact of balanced forces, which have the function of balancing the excess potential created by the individual. From this, one might assume that a student who intentionally pictures the worst possible scenarios immediately before an exam is more likely to get a high grade. It does not work that way, unfortunately, because any intention that originates in the mind and not the soul lacks sincerity. You can try deceiving yourself, but false sincerity has no energy behind it. Only an intention that comes from the soul has juice to it. This is why it does not work when you try to create a desired result simply via visualization. But this is a topic for later. Never under any circumstances should you boast about what you have. Even if you deserve those things and received them fairly, to say nothing of the things you have not yet achieved, because balanced forces will act against you. Make yourself at home, but do not forget that you are visiting. If you are in balance with surrounding pendulums, swaying with them in unison, your life will be pleasurable and flow with ease. When you are vibrating in resonant harmony with the rest of the world, it energizes you and you achieve your goals without any particular effort. If you have driven yourself into a state where it is practically impossible to live in balance with the world around you, for example, your husband beats you, then you should think hard about how to take that crucial step to change your surroundings. If you feel that you have nowhere to go, this is an idea that has been instilled in you by a pendulum that is trying to keep you under its control. There is always a way out, sometimes more than one. Remember that fly on the glass pane that did not spot the open window? Sudden movements that are badly thought out should be avoided. The best possible solution to any problem will come to you as soon as you reduce the level of importance you project onto it and free yourself from the influence of the destructive pendulum that prevents you from living in peace. You are already familiar with the two means of freeing yourself from a pendulum: defeat and stopping its sway. With that thought, I conclude this chapter on the complex and difficult theme of balance. Now that you understand how the mechanism of balanced forces works, you will easily be able to determine the reason for one failure or another. We conclude that it is essential to observe the principle of balance. It remains only to offer a word of caution against applying the principle too ardently, from becoming fixated with or fanatic about it, as this will only negate the very principle itself. If you try and explain to a centipede in minute detail how it should walk, it will become so confused that it won't be able to move at all. All things in moderation. Allow yourself from time to time to disturb the balance at little. Nothing awful will happen as long as you do not force the arrow off the scales. Summary: excess potential is only created when you attribute importance to your assessment. Only the importance you personally attribute to something imbues your assessment with energy. The force of the excess potential created increases if your assessment represents a distortion of reality. The impact of balanced forces is aimed at eliminating excess potential. The action of balanced forces is often the opposite of the original intention that created the potential. When renting yourself out, instruct your inner guardian to help you remain impeccable. Discontent and judgment will always turn balanced forces against you. It is essential that habits of negative response be substituted with a transmission of positive energy. Unconditional love is admiration without worship or the need to possess. Setting conditions and making comparisons leads to dependent relationships. Dependent relationships create excess potential. Idealization and overestimation always end in disillusionment. To experience reciprocal love, you must let go of the right to possess. You always have to pay for expressions of contempt and vanity. Let go of the need to assert your superiority. Striving to hide shortcomings creates the opposite effect. Your positive qualities compensate for any inadequacies. The greater the importance of your goal, the less likely you are to achieve it. Desires are realized when they are free of excess potential created by projected importance and dependency. Let go of feelings of guilt and the need to justify your actions. To let go of guilt, it is enough to give yourself permission to be yourself. No one has the right to judge you. You have the right to be yourself. Money comes of its own accord as an attribute on the path to your goal. Greet money with love and attentiveness, and part with it without regret. Having let go of inner and outer importance, you acquire freedom of choice. The projection of importance is the only obstacle on the way to fulfilling your desires. Do not try to overcome obstacles. Reduce the amount of importance you project onto them. Take care without worrying.